2, 3.
Yeah, if you want to get it from Amazon, make sure you use that name, Larry Rowe. That's the name you want to order in, because they have another one that will cost you more money. As a matter of fact, it costs
Okay.
costs $29, and mine is only what you call it. I wrote this book, and we put it in Amazon, and found out that it was hard to read because we wrote it. I don't know what we was thinking about, but we realized it was inmates that was going to be reading it, because that's what we want to do, get it in the hands of inmates. Mm-hmm. In fact, right now, I'm thinking about emailing some churches and see how many churches will be willing to purchase 5 or 6 books to give to the prison or the jail of their choice. Donate them to them, and to be put in the chaplain's office, because you got 5 or 6 books, and everybody get a chance to read it.
That's a great idea.
So I'll think about doing that, but we just got to find. I'm gonna start doing it and get some churches involved, because I think God gave me that idea, so that might help on sales. But once it get out there, now I got this one guy that just started to work with me. He's in the Navy. His son wanted to read one. His son is a writer for a Christian movie company. He's a writer on staff, so he's hoping that he could push it through, because it's hard to get. I've had a lot of people say they have sent my book to this, but they don't take them. They don't really. They say they get so many books in, they don't bother sending them no books or nothing. So I don't know how they pick up. But he said he think my book can make a good story. And main thing, I have one agenda. That book tells the story of my life, and when I go into prison and give my testimony, I don't never have enough time to give the whole testimony. Mm-hmm. So I give it in parts. Sometimes I just talk about this, something about that, but the truth doesn't matter. I put a lot of them in there. And so God just touched my heart one day. I just told God, I said, God, am I supposed to write a book? I said, tell me. Well, 3 weeks later, I went down in Florida and spoke at a friend's church. And he walked up behind me and whispered in my ear. He said, I think it's time you write a book. I said, okay, that's the confirmation. That's the confirmation I need right there, And so I started writing. And he said, well, I said, it's hard for me to just sit down and write, because I get confused and have to keep erasing and stuff. He said, don't do it. He said, just record it. He sent it to me, and I put it on paper for you.
Wow, so, wonderful.
That was like a
yes, gift.
Yeah, I mean, that apartment, the divine apartment that y'all met.
Well,
like
he was a speaker for Bill Glass Ministry in Florida. And the problem about he was a millionaire. He had his own publishing company and everything. And he came from where I came from. And only problem, we had a falling out over the name. He was called the Rabbit, because in the book it tells how the judge called me the Rabbit, because he was trying to sentence me, and I ran out of his courtroom, and so he named me the Rabbit. So he wanted to call that book The Rabbit, and I really prayed about it. And when I prayed about it, he sort of started having he had some eye problem or something. He said, I'm not going to worry about publishing nothing right now, So I said, okay. And so he backed out, and so I went and prayed. We prayed for this answer. Mm-hmm. God gave me this. When I prayed for a direction, I said, what should we name this book? And I was talking to one day, and this guy was talking about it. He said, well, your cell is empty anyway. The cell you're supposed to have is in empty. And I said, that's it, the empty cell.
Oh, wow.
And then God told me to explain that to people. People would ask me, why did you call it the empty cell? I said, because there's a cell out there that's empty that I'm supposed to be in, because I suppose they got life in prison.
Oh, wow.
Some years back. And so for that name to go out like that, it means a lot. Mm-hmm. So hopefully I can get that done. I'm planning on doing some more books. I'm planning on doing books on the scripture, though, and stuff like that. But I was going to do one on the liberation. I was going to do a book, and I still got the notes, and if I ever sit down and stop to do it, I'm going to tape it and get it done. And it's called The Brainwashing of Black America.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah, it really will. And the key to, because everybody always ask me, why do blacks all vote for Democrats? Why we all run the Democrats? And I ask my own self that, why do that? Well, I think we cursed ourselves, the black people, when Woodrow Wilson ran for president as a Democrat. He made a promise to the black people, if you come over and vote for me, then I would do this for the black community, I would do that. Well, they came over and voted for him, got him in office in the presidency. He turned out being the worst president for us ever. Wow. And so the point, I think, and it didn't run us away from the Democratic Party, and I couldn't figure it out. Because, when you really think about it, before he came along, we was all Republican voters because of
Oh, that was before my time, because I never knew that.
Yeah, Abraham
That
Lincoln, because of Abraham Lincoln, what he did, a lot of us tends to go towards that. But see, this is something else God is showing me, and I'm also putting in that book, is this. The black ministers became community organizers rather than stay behind the pulpit and preach Jesus. And what we need in the community is somebody preaching Jesus.
That's right.
Because we lost so many black people that went to the Nation of Islam and stuff like that, and got into all this blackness. We look at the color shouldn't matter no more. We got to understand something. There's no rights that the white man have that I don't have. So we have accomplished a lot, and we need to thank God for what we got. See, it's kind of like walking up stairs. When you step up a step, when you take a step on that step, you got to make your foot firm before you can make the other step.
Exactly.
Well, that's the way we got to do. We as people, we have got to, first of all, thank you, Jesus, for what you've done and what you got for us next. But we're not doing that. We're in fact, because of the Democratic Party, a lot of blacks have left the church, or left Christianity. And I think about this when you see the marches and everything going on. You always see these Christian people in the midst of it, but they hooked up with communists and everybody else.
Wow.
So God is trying to. I think God is saying, okay, something happened that changed us and caused us to go so totally Democrat. And there are so many black people I know that cannot tell you why they vote Democrat, but they just think Democrats are better. And when you tell them the things that they have done, they don't want to hear it.
Well, you're right, because I know some of them just vote straight ticket.
Yeah.
But no, it might be somebody else down the line. I want to vote over here and not the straight ticket.
Well, one of the greatest things was when Donald Trump ran for president the first time. One thing, even the second time, but Donald Trump, automatically he was hated. Now, check this out. Before Donald Trump ran for president, he was beloved by the black community because he was the one that was promoting the music. He was the one that was promoting even the boxing. You take all the boxers love him, but the normal people, they didn't, because they're latching on to that talk, that ghetto conversation. I call it the ghetto corner talk. You know, he's a bad man, he's a racist. Well, everybody knows it, man. This man's the worst. He probably less racist than any white man. Then they ran a check on all the presidents that we've had that had a connection to slavery, that had been slave owners. Well, every last one of them, including Obama, had ancestors that owned slaves. But guess who didn't? Donald Trump.
Wow.
He's the only one that did it. And so I say this, it don't matter who you got there. You can put Jesus Christ in that seat. And if he's a Republican, he's got to be hated by us. That's really sad, but it's a true thing. And I have a lot of blacks get mad at me for saying that, but I'm just saying, God woke me up the hard way. I was in prison. I campaigned for Jimmy Carter. Before I went to prison, I campaigned for Jimmy Carter, but when I got in prison, Jimmy Carter had just lost, and Ronald Reagan beat him, and I didn't like that. I was really angry about that, and but I had this white friend, a young kid from California. His name was Mark Delmont. He's a big Reagan supporter, and he was talking to me about it. And he told me, he said, Larry, we'll get in arguments like you wouldn't believe. He was my friend, and we was both on the same prayer team in the afternoon. And so when it come time for him to get out, I know he was fitting to get out about a few months before I did. And he sit down and talk. We was gonna have one of them arguments. And he said, Larry, you know, I'm not gonna convince you, and you certainly ain't gonna convince me. He said, do me a favor, pray about it and put it in God's hand. And I thought about that. I said, okay, you know, y'all say, okay, you're gonna pray, but you know, it didn't happen. So he got out. A few weeks later, he wanted to send me a gift, a radio, because the radios in prison kind of hard. He sent me a radio that was bad outbreak, because they cut the cords off of them. They don't want you using the cords, so you have to use batteries. He sent me this radio in a big old card, and he took a magic marker. He wrote it in big letters. He said, for Ronald Reagan or Jimmy Carter, and then he put it in big words, pray about it. I mean, I couldn't miss it. And I said, whoa, God, wow. I said, okay, so I went to praying about it, and I could see that I was touching something God wanted me to touch. And it was drawing me in deeper, so I began to pray and meditate for 3 days. I would pray, and read the word and put the Bible over my head, face closed, and lay on the bed and meditate on it. And it was when 4 days later, I noticed when I walked out of the dormitory, the TVs. We had a hall, and a dorm hall. Then you go through a door to another dorm, and on each hall had a TV there. So if you're looking at something on this TV, you step over and close the door. They got other TV doing the same thing. And every time I looked around, it was Ronald Reagan speaking. And I said to myself, you know, God, I'm just going to listen to this man. And I'm sitting there listening to him. The more I listened to him, the more I wanted him. So I began to make rules that when he was on TV, I was going to hear him. And I found out this guy believes the same thing I believe. What is the problem here? And it's almost like God said, nothing. There is no problem unless you make it a problem. And I had made it a problem. My blackness stood out. Just the same thing happened to me when I became a Muslim. I became a black Muslim because of the color of my skin. Malcolm X, I heard him speak, and it drew me in. But the truth of the matter is, I think black people, we need to really thank God. I mean, seriously, you think of what we came out of, we keep on our knees every day, daily, thanking God. Oh my God,